Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Savakaya Chaksha Unmilitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Mangayate Gari Yat Pipatamaham Vande Shri Gunandina Taruna Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachavane Nirvishesha Shanyavari Satyade Satarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I wish to thank all of you for coming and participating today in this Holy Name Day event. It has become a very good opportunity for me to see so many familiar faces, and beyond that, to see not only familiar faces, but many faces of devotees with whom I've shared many close exchanges over the last 35 years, I guess. Maybe 36 years, but anyways, it's somewhere around there. But because I see so many familiar faces, I feel a sense of responsibility to maybe take a little portion of what I will speak about today to help many of you understand a little bit better about my relationship with the Lithuanian Yatra and how it has changed over the last few years. Usually I can listen to my translator and make sure if they're correct, but I went Lithuanian. That's it's beyond my league. Russian is too, but at least I understand a little. But and for those of you who don't need to hear this part, forgive me for speaking about it, but I feel a sense of responsibility to say a few words about it. I began coming, I don't know, does anyone remember what year I came here? 1989? 1990? Anyways, I can't remember. 89. Yeah, maybe, it must be 89.
89 you came to Belarus, to Minsk.
Oh, yeah, 89 I went to Minsk. Okay. And I went to Moscow. And Kiev. Yeah. And I guess it was 90 I came to Riga and Vilnius. And in 1991, I was requested upon the departure of Kirtiraj Prabhu, who was then the GBC for the entire former Soviet Union. I was requested to accept responsibilities on his behalf as a member of the GBC. I was already a member of the GBC since 1987, but he transferred responsibility over to several devotees because as he told me at that time, he had dedicated so many years for preaching in the former Soviet countries and was giving so much time to it that his children didn't know they had a father. And he felt it was time to give some more time to his children. I was very much appreciative of his mood, and I felt a sense of a desire to assist him in some way, although I wasn't eager to become a GBC for the former Soviet Union. But he did appeal to me if I would do it, and he requested that I become responsible for the Baltic countries, for Belarus, and for Ukraine, Moldova, and I think the western part of Russia also, somehow, which is a lot of responsibility. But so I've been coming here since, as in the capacity of a GBC since 1991, having been in Moscow in 91 and having watched the whole event that took place there in 1991. I was watching the tanks coming into Red Square and the Parliament, and Yeltsin standing on the tanks. Anyways, this is history. We don't need to discuss it here. But it was felt that I could take that responsibility with at least some understanding of what was required to fulfill it. And in the mood of a servant, I accepted. In fact, I'll share, I guess it's not so confidential anymore, how I even became a GBC. In 1987, I was requested, I was requested to come and speak to members of the GBC at that time. I hope at least most of you know what a GBC is, and I'm not, hopefully you might know what it is. I can tell you that after 38 years of being one, I know what it is. But I'm not going to talk about that today. Please, I won't talk about that. But in 1987, I was asked to come and speak to members of GBC, and they asked me if I wanted to become a GBC. And I said to them, honestly speaking, I'm very satisfied just preaching. And I told them that I didn't feel I needed a position or a designation such as GBC to continue to do that. I had all facility I needed at the time just to do that. And then they asked me to leave the room. And about 30 seconds later, they invited me back. And they clapped their hands. And I said, what's going on? And they said, congratulations, you're a GBC. Later, I inquired how it happened. And I was told, because I didn't want to be a GBC. That's how it happened. In those days, that's how things happened. And anyways, since 1991, I have been coming here in that capacity to Lithuania. I used to visit Latvia and Estonia in the same capacity. And it's similarly in Ukraine and in Moldova, Belarus, and Russia. And I performed that service, especially here in Lithuania, since then until 2024, at which time I came to the understanding that, considering my health and the circumstances that I had in having to deal with the amount of travel that was expected to me, because not only was I GBC in the areas I've already described, but I was also GBC in northeastern United States, and for quite some time in eastern Canada, that having to travel so extensively if I had taken a toll on my health. Maybe some of you might have heard what I've had to go through in the last maybe 2 years with regards to my health and the various surgeries I had, and some serious. And I somehow was getting a message that I felt was becoming clearer and clearer. I actually experienced Krishna telling me something. sometimes devotees, they question, how does Krishna speak? And they're very eager to have that kind of reciprocation in the heart to hear Krishna speaking. Sometimes it may come in the form of words. Sometimes it may come in the form of realizations. Sometimes it may come in other forms, speaking through the mouths of other devotees. Sometimes it may come in the form of the words coming from the spiritual master, and that resonates with the heart within ourselves. And we may actually get some kind of hint or begin to experience that actually Krishna is very close. I just need to hear him. But still, we can't recognize him as he speaks. Once Prabhupada, he was giving a talk with devotees in New Vrindavan. I've spoken about this before. It's a very wonderful and interesting talk. He was speaking with a group of disciples, and they were asking him questions. And one disciple asked a question, Srila Prabhupada, when we're preaching in the colleges, sometimes we hear from the students and others, the intellectuals, that they don't need a spiritual master because God is in their heart. And Prabhupada asked the devotee, what should you tell them? And the devotee gave some kind of response like that kind of indicated that he didn't really tell them anything. He just heard it, but didn't give a response to it. And Prabhupada asked him, did you tell him? And what Srila Prabhupada? Said, did you give him the answer? Did you tell him, who does Krishna speak to? And the devotee didn't really have time to respond because Prabhupada then went into he was like a drill. Not a drill, what was it? Like a jackhammer. You know what jackhammer is? He said to the disciple, you're not reading my books. You didn't give him an answer. Don't you read my books? Who does Krishna speak to? and then he really started to emphasize the point about these answers are in his books. And then Prabhupada said, what does Krishna say? What does Krishna say about to whom he speaks? And by that time, he couldn't open his mouth. So Prabhupada continued. Tesam satatam yuktanam bhajatam pittipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamamupiyanti te. Prabhupada. You know this verse? Yes, Srila Prabhupada. What does Krishna say? And then he said to the other devotee, tell him, what does Krishna say? Then the other devotee says, Krishna says that to those who are constantly devoted to me, always meditating upon me, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. So who does Krishna speak to? He speaks to those who are 24 hours a day, constantly devoted to him. He speaks to them. But how can one be 24 hours constantly a day, constantly every day be serving Krishna unless one is connected to the spiritual master? So therefore, Krishna also says how to be engaged in service by following the instructions of the spiritual master. I can't remember which verse he quoted that time. But basically, I think it was Karpanya dosha hopahata svabhava prichrami tam damatam samuda cheta yashraya sandishtam bruhitam shishyam staham sarimam prapanam. Talks about Arjuna, how he's confused about how to be fully engaged in devotional service. I don't know what is my duty. So I'm your disciple, and soul surrendered unto you, please instruct. So Prabhupada then started expanding on this point about how important it is that if you want to speak to Krishna in the heart, first you have to accept instructions of the spiritual master. And then how Krishna helps from within and from without. He helps from within as Chaitya Guru, and he helps from without by those who have faith in following the instructions of the spiritual master. Of course, we understand many things about accepting spiritual master. One may accept spiritual master emanating from the mouth of a Vaishnava who actually helps him to understand who is Krishna. One can have a Diksha Guru, one can have Siksha Guru, and have many Siksha Gurus that help one in one's path, advancing to pure devotional service and establishing one's relationship with Krishna. This conversation, however, took place in 1975. And in 1975, as we all experienced, those of us who were present during Srila Prabhupada's manifest presence, Prabhupada was Diksha Guru and Siksha Guru. And therefore, Prabhupada's words had all that more impact on this particular devotee. And then Prabhupada went on again to say, why didn't you defeat them, these people who said Krishna speaks to them? Actually, he went into that point about defeating them even before he became the jackhammer. He said, did you defeat them? He said, why didn't you defeat them? And that's when he started saying, you're not reading my books. So after this conversation, the devotee then asked Srila Prabhupada another question. After Prabhupada finished with his hammering, he asked the question, Prabhupada, how can one be humble always before in the presence of the spiritual master? And because he felt that Prabhupada he wanted to explain what he actually meant when this person asked the question, but Prabhupada wouldn't let up. He wouldn't let him explain himself. He thought he had a good defense. But in the presence of Srila Prabhupada, there are no good defenses. The only good defense is to keep your ears open and don't say anything. And Prabhupada wanted to establish that point with his disciple. He was not only a perfect teacher in the instructions he gave, but he was also a perfect teacher by his example. And therefore he taught by example also for the benefit of everyone, and we accept him as founder Acharya. And he was teaching to all of his disciples at that time, who were both his Siksha and Diksha disciples, that one should feel oneself to be a fool in the presence of the spiritual master. Even Lord Chaitanya himself, the Supreme Personality of God, established this principle in the presence of Prakashananda Saraswati and said, why aren't you studying Vedanta with us? And Lord Chaitanya, who was sitting in the presence of Prakashananda Saraswati and his 60,000 followers who were all standing behind him, he wasn't simply speaking to Prakashananda Saraswati. He was speaking to everyone who was present. And they were all attracted to him, and they wanted to hear what he said because he gave off an effulgence that was brighter than millions of suns as he sat in an unclean place where all who had entered into the place where they had assembled would wash their feet first. And Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of God, had sat in the very same place where everyone, those 60,000 Mayavadi sannyasis, where they washed their feet. And then he gave off this effulgence so bright that everyone wanted to hear whatever he had to say. And they were all gathered around. And he said, oh, I can't study Vedanta. My spiritual master considered me a fool. And he told me, oh, it's just studying Vedanta. You don't have the intelligence for this. Instead, he told me simply to chant this name. And I found by chanting this name, in due course of time, I experienced such wonderful satisfaction and bliss that I had to ask my spiritual master, what kind of mantra have you given? And of course, his spiritual master, Ishwar Puri, described how he became very pleased with him. Why was he so pleased? Because he understood the essence of Vedas. Krishna says, by all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas. And Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Krishna and his name, they are non-different. Purna Shuddho Nityamukto, Shuddho Nityamukto, Vinitvan Nama Namino. All these things were realized by him. But not only they realized by him, and then after saying that, I found that my spiritual master by giving me this name, that sometimes I chanted, sometimes I danced, sometimes I experienced such ecstasy that I became even unconscious of everything that was going on around me. And then, of course, as we know, although he described himself as a complete fool, and then he completely defeated Prakashananda Saraswati on the basis of Vedanta and establishing how devotional service is the highest principle, and how by pleasing the Lord one can achieve the supreme goal of life. Of course, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he took the position that in the presence of my spiritual master, I understood myself to be a complete fool. And therefore, as Lord Chaitanya himself said, he told me, don't study this Vedanta. Instead, you just simply accept this name. So, Prabhupada was teaching the same principle. He's teaching the same principle that in so many places he's emphasized that everything will become revealed for those who chant the holy name of the Lord with firm faith. Actually, what's the schedule? Huh?
Till 4 o'clock.
Till 4 o'clock. Oh, okay. All right. Excuse me. I was talking about GBC and I went off on a tangent. But I wanted to speak about Bihad Bhagavatamrita too. Anyways, I'll get there. Hare Krishna. Yes. So I was explaining how I felt that although I wasn't hearing Krishna speaking in my heart, I was actually experiencing Krishna speaking through many other forms. And because of the circumstances which had manifested with my health, and I decided in 2024 that I should resign from the GBC. I definitely felt some confirmation in the heart from Krishna and Srila Prabhupada that this is what he would want me to do. And of course, someone may say, how could you do something like that when Prabhupada himself said, GBC means for life? I felt that, well, at this particular point, I could end it quickly or stay a little bit longer and try to continue to serve Prabhupada. So that's how I reconciled that statement. Prabhupada did say that when one becomes GBC, she should accept that for life. But I didn't accept that as that was a hard and fast rule that couldn't be somehow superseded with a higher understanding. So I tried to reconcile that understanding too before I resigned. And then, which means I don't have any GBC responsibilities in any of the areas that I had where I was previously the GBC, which also means I don't have to travel as much as I previously traveled. And I can give more attention to doing doing what I feel is more important for me to do in a more regulated way. I'm giving some time for my health, but not some, just some. Sadhana. I'm giving some time to lecturing. Specifically, as devotees who've been hearing my lectures lately, they know how much I am completely I'm overwhelmed by my studies in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It started during the pandemic when I was staying in Mayapur for 2.5 continuous years. And for those 2.5 years, I was giving lectures continuously on about 2 chapters of Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I think something like 260 lectures or something from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And that gave me a little sense what Prabhupada meant, that for those who want to understand devotees, Krishna, devotees and devotional service, they must study the Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Everything is there. Srimad Bhagavatam is there. The Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta is there. Everything is in this Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And this was spoken by Parikshit Maharaj to his mother just before he was to give up his body. And he had to present it in a way that he could answer her fervent questions. She was very keen on understanding about the different statuses of devotional service, the different perfections that one can achieve by devotional service, and about the hierarchy that exists within devotional service and in Vaikuntha. But she had a particular yearning to understand, can you please describe what about those devotees who are attached to the performer of the rasa dance with the gopis? What about those devotees who have this kind of love for Krishna? There must be a special place for them. Can you please tell me what is this special place for them? And Parikshit Maharaj had to give everything he heard from Shukadev Goswami. But he didn't have 7 days and 7 nights to repeat everything. He had to present it in a way that he could give the essence and at the same time cover everything that she needed to hear. Anyways, I became very intrigued by Srila Sanatana Goswami's presentation of Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I begin to see both by the classes, but every day since last May, practically every day, I'm reading every day with a godbrother online. We're reading gradually Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And our reading is very spontaneous. Some days we may read one verse, and for an hour we just go on, just sharing our realizations. Sometimes I may speak and share my realizations from my studies before. He shares his realizations. So I want to devote a substantial amount of time to continue these readings and studies in Brihad Bhagavatamrita in a systematic way. And I want to share what I'm experiencing by studying Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And I've begun working on at least begun some of the initial stages on preparing commentaries on Brihad Bhagavatamrita, especially including the commentaries from many of our previous acharyas, although they didn't give commentaries on Brihad Bhagavatamrita. They give commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. The most authorized commentary on Brihad Bhagavatamrita is Sanatana Goswami himself. And someone may say, because it's very unusual for someone to write a commentary on their own writing. Vyasadeva was instructed by Narayana Muni to give his commentary on Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. But generally, you will not see a Vaishnava Acharya writing his own commentaries to a book that he's written. And so why did Srila Sanatana Goswami write his Digdarshani Tika on Brihad Bhagavatamrita? It's because he understood that I didn't write this. Krishna wrote it. I was just holding the pen. In fact, there's one very nice verse from Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It's not Sanat. What is Sanatana Goswami? Because he wrote the whole Brihad Bhagavatamrita. But there's a very nice verse explaining how Krishna acts through the speaker or the writer. And Sanatana Goswami, he understood that Krishna was simply acting through me, and I wasn't writing this, therefore I can write a commentary on it because it was written by Krishna. So that's why he gave his Digdarshani Tika, which may seem unusual. But I was reading, not long ago, I was reading one verse from Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and one verse. Where do I find this one? Okay, I know where to find it. And yes, I have it. This verse was spoken by Gopakumar. Now, Gopakumar, many of you may have heard about Gopakumar. Gopakumar was a very simple cowherd boy who took his birth in Govardhan, and he became attracted to one sadhu, Brahmin, and he saw this Brahmin, and he began rendering service to him. And he was just a young cowherd boy, but he thought, well, let me serve this Brahmin. He seems to be he's so joyful, so ecstatic. He started serving him by bringing him some milk. What else does a cowherd boy bring? Except to bring him some milk. And then he began rendering other kinds of personal services as well. And then the Brahmin, who was in actuality to become his spiritual master, named Jayanta, became very pleased with the behavior of this young cowherd boy. And he told this young cowherd boy that, now I would like to give you something. Sanatana Goswami actually explains in the commentary on that section, he said that it's not that this Jayanta wanted to give something to Gopakumar because he felt he had to give him something in return. It's not that he felt, oh, he served me, so I should give him something in return. He was detached. Yes. Whether the milk was there or the milk wasn't there, he was experiencing the same ecstasy. The milk was not a relevant part of his ecstasy. But because he was experiencing the ecstasy, he wanted to give something to us. So he told this cowherd boy, Gopakumar, go to the river, take baths, and then come back, and I'll give you a gift. So, of course, the gift that he gave him was the Gopal mantra. And when he gave him the mantra, he also gave him, he said, may you live a long life. Gave him the blessing, may you live a long life. And may you always remain in the body of the cowherd boy. And may you achieve the fruit, the real fruit, which can be achieved by this chanting of this mantra. That was the blessing he gave. And then he disappeared. There were no further instructions. And then, of course, it'll be too difficult for me to encapsulate the whole the whole story about Gopakumar's journey in 20 minutes, especially since I want to have a little kirtan too before I end. But I'm trying to make you a little bit understand of who is this Gopakumar, who's speaking to this Mathura Brahmin. And he's speaking to the Mathura Brahmin because he became perfect by chanting this mantra that Jayanta gave him. He had to go a lot of places. He had to go to Puri, he had to go to Braj, he had to go to Svargaloka. You don't have to translate. Tapaloka, Janaloka, Mahaloka, Satyaloka, Mahakalapur, Shivaloka, Vaikunta, Ayodhya, Dwarka. And then finally, he ended up in Goloka. And in each of those places that he visited, he also had to take up positions. For instance, he became a Brahma for half of Brahma's lifetime. His spiritual master said, may you live a long time. may you always have the form of a cowherd boy. So he had to live a long time. He became an Indra also. And he was an Indra for a long time, then became a Brahma. Then he entered into Mahakalapur, the Brahma Jyoti. And then he was introduced, each place he went, he was getting Siksha gurus, instructors who were appearing before him and instructing him how to go beyond, because he was very innocent. He didn't really fully understand what he was going through. All he knew is this mantra, and he had faith. So because he had such firm faith in the mantra, he chanted it very determinedly. For some time, he chanted it dutifully, except that when he was in Mahakalapur, which was the Brahmajyoti, the Vaikuntha Dutas came to him and spoke to him, you got to go beyond this dutiful chanting. Dutiful chanting will definitely give you some fruit. What if you want to see Vaikuntha? You have to chant ecstasy. You have to chant the name, no formalities, just chant in ecstasy. And they actually spoke about Nam Sankirtan. The Vaikuntha Duta spoke a lot about the superiority of Nam Sankirtan, and how Nam Sankirtan actually brings one to this platform of such ecstasy, that the ecstasy sometimes becomes so strong that you forget yourself. While Gopakumar was in Vaikuntha, many times he came before the Supreme Lord, who was manifest at that time as Narayan. And when he saw Lord Narayan, he saw his worshipful deity, Madan Gopal. And he completely fell down, lost consciousness. And then Lord Narayan, sitting on his throne, understood that he has to come back to consciousness again. Came back to consciousness. He calls out, Gopal! Gopal! And all the residents of Vaikuntha who brought him there, and he was standing around, Gopal? Who's this Gopal? Our Lord's not Gopal. Shh. Not here. Nobody ever heard that before. Some poor cowherd boy who can't even, parents don't even put shoes on his feet. Our Lord here is so majestic, so opulent. Gopal, that Gopal is just a temporary form he accepted when he descends to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, and to cheat enemies like Kamsa. And he hides as a cowherd boy, so they won't recognize him. So they kind of objected to Gopakumar's spontaneity. Of course, there is ecstatic symptoms that one experiences there. Prema exists there, but not with such intimacy as Gopakumar wanted to experience. So anyways, Gopakumar went to all of these places. And then after Vaikuntha, he went to Ayodhya, and he was ecstatically chanting the names of Ram. And he was received in Ayodhya by some monkey followers of Ram and some Aryan followers of Ramachandra. And they were so far more beautiful than even the residents of Vaikuntha. And then after going to Ayodhya and seeing Lord Ramachandra understood his heart, gave him his blessings. You don't belong here. Go to Dwarka. So then he goes off to Dwarka, sees Krishna again in his majestic feature as a king, surrounded by his servants. I'm moving quickly. but and then in Dwarka, he comes before Krishna, experiences the same ecstasy, falls flat, loses consciousness. And then Krishna in Dwarka says, "Oh, my dear cowherd boy, from where have you come?" As soon as Krishna because Krishna knew from where he came. So he started remembering Braj. As he was remembering Braj, Uddhava was looking at him very closely. And Uddhava was thinking, he may lose himself. Here he is in Dwarka, surrounded by so many of his commanders and king, and his opulences, which were there in personified opulences. And he might just lose himself and forget, and they won't understand. And then Krishna, sitting there and looked down, "What do you have there? What is this?" And he took from Gopakumar's hand his flute. He picked up the flute, started examining the flute, and Uddhava understood that it's time. I gotta get him to go take his meal. He's going to forget himself here. And if he goes to too much internal absorption, the residents of Dwarka will not be able to understand at all. The same thing happened in the first volume of Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It's another whole story how the residents of Dwarka began feeling in the presence of Krishna when he was crying, and they couldn't understand. Why is Krishna cry? Nobody cries in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha. Who cries in Vaikuntha? Everybody's in ecstasy. And Krishna was crying because he was reminded about those wonderful residents of Braj. And Narada Muni reminded him in that place because he began to inquire from Uddhava about who were those people that you saw in Braj. Anyways, after Dwarka, then Krishna was given the blessings by Uddhava and Narada Muni both. Go back to Mathura. Go back to Braj. Someone may say, wait a minute. He's in Dwarka, in the spiritual world, and he's told to go back to Bama Lila. And then, of course, he goes back to Bama Lila. And then in Bama Lila, he begins looking for the Lord. Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? And because while he was looking for Krishna, he fell into the Yamuna. He got a scent of Krishna. He saw Krishna for a moment. And then, where is Krishna? Where's Krishna? Hey Radhe Vajadevi Keshalalita. And he fell into the Yamuna River. And then, after falling in the Yamuna River, he woke up. And he was in Goloka. But he didn't know he was in Goloka. He just, where am I? And he began walking around and looking at all the different people that were there. And they all seemed to be waiting for someone. So he would stop and speak to people. Can you tell me who's the king of this village? But no one would answer him. They were in too much ecstasy. And one person to the next, who's the king of this village? And then finally you got one person who understood his his intentions. He said, oh, this is Nanda Maharaj's village. This is Nanda Maharaj's village. So he knew that if this is Nanda Maharaj's village, he knew who would soon be coming from the pasturing ground. Because they were all waiting there by the gate, waiting for Krishna to come back from the pasturing grounds. So he just sat there waiting. And off in the distance, he saw dust coming from the hooves of the calves and the cows. And then as they came closer and closer, then as Krishna, of course, as he comes closer, he says, oh, look, it's my friend, Sarupa. He opens his arms to embrace him. And Gopakumara, he opens his arms. And Krishna, he loses consciousness. He falls on the ground, completely lost consciousness. And all the gopas and gopis who were standing around thinking, what's happened to our Krishna? They thought maybe Gopakumara might have been one of the associates of the demons. What has happened to him? And then, of course, we know Balaram, he helped Krishna come to consciousness, and got to keep my eye on the clock. And I wanted to read this verse. I'll get to it. But, excuse me 1 second. Anyways, ultimately he achieved that intimate personal relationship for which he was hankering in his heart, and by which he became so dissatisfied and in anxiety, even in Vaikuntha. It's very, very unusual for somebody to be in anxiety in Vaikuntha. And Narada Muni even said this about Gopakumara. Gopakumara had asked Narada, how can I see you wherever I go? And Narada began to explain to him how the devotees of the Lord, they can actually manifest many forms to serve the Lord wherever they go to serve him. And Narada said to Gopakumara, just like I see you in so many places too. But wherever I see you, you're always lamenting. Why are you lamenting? Of course, his lamentation was due to separation from Madhangopal. It's not the ordinary lamentation of material affairs. His lamentation was the highest ecstasy of separation. So, anyways, Sarupa told this whole story to a Mathura Brahmin. This Mathura Brahmin was somebody who received the same mantra as Gopakumara received. But he was a worshipper of the goddess Kamaksha.
Sorry, goddess?
Kamaksha, Durga. And she gave him the mantra in a dream. And so much detail also about the Mathura Brahmin. And the only reason why I'm bringing him up, because the verse I want to read is the verse that Gopakumara speaks to the Mathura Brahmin after he tells the Mathura Brahmin his whole story about himself. And so this Mathura Brahmin was somebody who had received the mantra from goddess Kamaksha, who was actually an expansion of Srimati Radharani. Kamaksha? Who is expansion of Srimati Radharani. Just as Krishna expands himself into many unlimited forms, Srimati Radharani, she also expands herself. There's the Kaya Vyuha, there's the gopis who are the eternal associates of Krishna and Goloka, and then there's Mahalakshmi, and then there's goddesses of fortune. They're all expansions coming from Srimati Radharani. And she also expands also as Lakshmi, as Chanchala Lakshmi, who doesn't stay very long. She's Chanchala, she's flickering. Especially for those who want Lakshmi without Narayan. Or in the case of in Lord Ramachandra, or the story of Lord Ravana, who wanted Sita without Ram. She's very flickering. So, but she expands in all these different forms. So, Sarupa had already achieved his eternal form as Sarupa. He was previously Gopakumar. But as Sarupa, Radharani called him confidentially one day. And she told him, there's somebody who's worshiping me in my form, in one of my forms as Kamaksha, and who's chanting the same mantra you chanted. Why don't you go and speak to him and help him to come here as quickly as possible? So Sarupa, he decided that he should follow Radharani's instructions. And he accepted them, and he decided that he would leave in the morning while Krishna's going out to the pasturing ground, and he would try to come back before Krishna returned. And so he descended, and this Mathura Brahmin found Sarupa in a secluded place in Mathura, and he heard him crying, and he approached him, and then the Sarupa had to try to speak to him in a way to win his confidence. Because after all, he was sent by Radharani. It's not sent by Radharani personally. Why Radharani? Of course, there's a lot I could explain about why Radharani. But she's the source of all the diverse, she's the mother of devotion. She's the mother of devotional service. She's the mother of all the ecstasies of devotional service. She's the mother of unlimited varieties of devotional service. So why shouldn't she take interest in this person who is chanting this mantra, which was given to him by her expansion? So anyways, Sarupa, please don't get bewildered. Gopakumar is Sarupa. He was Gopakumar throughout his whole journey until Krishna received him back in Goloka and said, Sarupa, my friend. And then he understood. We understood. So Gopakumar told his whole story. And then after telling the whole story to the Mathura Brahmin, I want to get to this verse. It was just an introduction to this verse. So, it's what you get when you read aloud Bihad Bhagavatamrita. Where did I say it was? Oh yeah, here it is. Bihad Bhagavatamrita. Oh no, what happened? I lost it. It's no, that's not it. I'll find it. Please forgive me. I know I'll find it. I just have to find Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Must be this one. Part 2, Jagadananda. Okay, I found it. I can't even remember why I brought this verse up, but maybe if I speak. Huh? What was I saying?
You try to comment that book, Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, yes. But no, there was some connection to the topic I was bringing up. I still didn't even finish about what I'm supposed to do after I resigned after this GBC. Maybe it had something to do with that. But anyways, he speaks this verse. This is Sarupa speaking to the Mathura Brahmin. And he said that, I've told you everything that happened to me and to the Lord and to his devotees. Right? As we said, Brihad Bhagavatamrita is specifically for those who want to know about Krishna, devotional service, and devotees. So I've told you everything that happened to me, to the Lord, and to his devotees. Even these topics are most confidential. This is the verse I wanted to cite. The special ecstasies one relishes in the shelter of the personality. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have it. Okay. The special ecstasies one relishes in the shelter of the personality of Godhead's lotus feet are private. One should feel shy to reveal them. Specifically speaking about these ecstasies, one should feel shy to reveal these ecstasies. Because these ecstasies, one, are difficult to control when they're real ecstasies. They're the ecstasies of prema. So he says that even to one's own mind, one should feel shy to reveal them. Try to understand it. If I try to explain it, I'll commit the same mistake. It can't even be. Anyways. And sometimes, he says, Sarupa is saying to the Mathura Brahmin, sometimes I entered special states of consciousness in which I could no longer recognize myself or others, nor distinguish one thing from the next. And so there were events I didn't see. So, he's explaining that I've been talking to you, explaining this whole story. And while talking to you, I've experienced something that it didn't even enable me to understand where I was, who you were, who I was. And I couldn't distinguish one thing from the next. And therefore, there were some events I didn't see. In other words, he's saying, I didn't see some things I was speaking about. And I forgot myself, because that's what happens. That's what happens, what Gopakumhara experiences, what's the resonance of Gokul experience. That's what happens to anybody who comes in contact with this prema bhakti. And he's saying, how could I continue to speak when I didn't even know who I was? I didn't know what was happening to me. I lost consciousness. How does somebody who loses consciousness speak? And therefore he says, yet Krishna, in your presence, has entered my heart. Well, now I never remember why I said it. I was talking about Sanatana Goswami writing Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Because Sanatana Goswami was writing Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and he was experiencing so much ecstasy, but yet everything is so amazing. He must have been experiencing a certain type of ecstasy. And then Sarupa is telling the Mathura Brahmin, yet Krishna in your presence has entered my heart and brought all these topics out, forcing them to come from my mouth. So Krishna was speaking. And therefore Sanatana Goswami experienced the same thing when he wrote Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Krishna was speaking. And if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is exactly the blessings Sanatana Goswami asked Lord Chaitanya. When he heard everything from Lord Chaitanya, he asked him, you've given me instructions to go to Vrindavan and renovate places of Krishna's pastimes. You've given me instructions to write books, but I'm not qualified. How can I do this unless you place your feet on my head and give me the power to do this? That's how a devotee understands how he can be successful in any undertaking. I need the blessings of Vaishnavas. I need the blessings of the Lord. I need the blessings of as many Vaishnavas as I could possibly get. And the Sanatana Goswami actually experienced all of this in his presentation of Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And it's 4:10. I didn't have kirtan. And just quickly, very quick. No, yes. No, this is mundane. Very quickly, I want to say, I've come to Lithuania because I miss you. And I can't travel as much. So please don't ask me to travel. And I'll come again. If you allow me to come again, just come see me. And I've been speaking with devotees and talking with them, doing my sadhana, and reading Vihad Bhagavatamrita. I have to give a class tomorrow morning online. Tomorrow will be Lord Brahma, about Lord Brahma. That's where we are right now in the first volume. And I think I covered everything. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Maharaj, mes irgi jūsų pasiilgstam ir laukiam Lietuvoje. Prašau atvykti.
No. She is asking you for you to come, but you just said that we shouldn't ask for you to come.
I will come spontaneously like I came this time. I decided a week before I came to come.
I'm sorry, she started that we are also missing you. Not that from the question, from the asking, but we're also missing you.
Okay.
Actually, we agree you need to travel no more. Just stay, Maharaj.
One thing I didn't say, but I have to confess, I am traveling to one place more than I'm traveling to other places. I'm trying to visit Ukraine, but because I feel the devotees there, nobody is visiting them. And the only way I can visit is by driving. And that's why I'm staying in Hungary a lot of the time, because it's close to the Ukraine border, and I can drive into Ukraine and one night, and the next night I drive to Kiev. So I'm trying to maintain at least that kind of a schedule for these devotees under the circumstance. I hope you forgive me. It's not really partiality. I think from a budget sees that it is. Yeah, but they're dealing with missiles and drones every night. So that's why I go there. And under the circumstances, dealing with missiles and drones every night, they're stuck with only me who's going there. Others have visited maybe once, but I've been there, I think, about 9 times since the war started. And I wish to continue to go for the reason I already gave. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ke, Lithuanian Yatra ke, Latvian Yatra ke, Estonian Yatra ke, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ke, Go Premanande. Hare Krishna. Mahaprasadam ke.